All right, let's go ahead and tackle this comment and see what we can do for him. All right, so taking a look into this comment here, we have highlighted a few, or at least the key concepts here. We need to handle multiple characters, which we've got here. I'm using 4 characters, but I can easily copy and paste or instantiate whatever, 5, 6, 7, 8, doesn't matter. I can continuously just keep adding in, and it's perfectly fine. So this system should work if you had 1 character or if you had 30 player characters. Turn-based. All right, so we'll have the player's turn, and then we'll have we'll see a little later there the NPC's turn. So we've got to distinguish whose turn it is as we go through. We're going to be moving on a square grid. Okay, so I just made a tile map and we're going with square, not hexagons. And I just kind of filled in the background using that tile map. Let's see, they have a single character test working great. You can move him around on the grid until he runs out of action points, at which point the turn ends. So the turn ends once the player characters have no more action points, and they can continuously move until they reach 0. Good to note. And they already have 1 character moving around, so I don't have to worry about the movement system. They have their own movement system for this. Let's see, they need the bare bones architecture of a system where all the player characters will move first, 1 at a time, so they're going to take turns, all of our player characters. And the fastest one, so the one with the most speed, which is why we have speed in the label there, the fastest one is going to be moving first. Okay, so we need to handle multiple characters. Player characters go before the NPCs. We have 2 turn phases, 1 for the player movement, 1 for the NPC movement. Move until they run out of action points, and the fastest one goes first. Yeah, sure, we can handle that. Alright, so what are we doing to handle this? Well, if I go ahead and you can just run this, you'll see here, pops up, we have this set. Now, you can see we have the NPC's turn, and I just have this set on the timer, just kind of emulate, since, there's no point in me making something happen for the NPC's turn, since they're going to do whatever it is they want to do anyway. And you see now that the time is up, NPCs have, quote-unquote, had their turn. It is now the player's turn. And in my case, since they have their own movement system, I'm just moving my character to wherever it is I clicked. So instead of having a smooth movement, they're just kind of teleporting there. But they're going to that specific tile. And we say we need to move on speed first and multiple characters. So we've got multiple characters. They'll have different action points. The fastest one here has a speed of 6, so player 3 with 2 action points should be going first. Boom, player 3 now has 1 action point, and based off of speed alone, player 4 should be going next. Boom, there we go. And then player 2 and player 1. And we can see we can keep going. They all have their turns, and when we're done, nobody has action points left. We go to the NPC's turn, and then it's back to our turn. And we can continue moving. And then the NPC's turn, and we can continue this loop. Alright, so how did we actually accomplish this? Well, to start off, I went ahead and I went up into my auto loads here, and I created myself a little game manager. Now you can obviously put this wherever you want, but I'm sticking mine up here, and this is what's gonna manage some of our turn orders now. So I'm just using GM as my name for easy access. And let's go ahead and jump into that. What is this doing? Well, my game manager here, let's probably enunciate that a little bit. My game manager. Here we have a turn queue. I have it exported just so I could view it, so I'm able to see what's going on as the thing is running when I was building it. We have an array that's going to hold our items. In my case, not items being characters. In my case, they're just sprite 2Ds, but yours might be a character, body, but I don't know, maybe there's sprites for you as well. So I just have my array of sprite 2Ds, which are my characters, and they're going to be in this array in the order that they get to go, right? Their turn order. All right. Then we have an enum of turns. So we have a player turn, we have an NPC turn, and anytime we want to add, another turn, right? We can come in here and we could just be like, enemy, right? And now we have an enemy turn in here as well. But based off of what I read there, all we need is a player and an NPC turn. And then I have another variable here called the current turn. So it's going to keep track of whether it's the NPC turn or an enemy turn. It's being casted as my turn enum type. And it's the NPC's turn by default here. Right. So I didn't have a function here called endTurn. And this is what's going to happen at, as you would assume, the end of my turns. So what we're going to do is we're going to match what the current turn is. And if it was the player's turn, we're going to change it to the NPC's turn. I'm going to update the text that I had at the bottom of the screen to say that it's the NPC's turn. And like I said, I'm just simulating the NPC's turn, so I just have a 3-second timer, and then I'm calling end turn again so we can switch back to the player. But these two, you wouldn't need. You would have your NPCs go ahead, make their turn, do whatever, and then call end turn when all your NPCs are finished. So for me, I'm using a timer. For you, you'll have your NPCs do their thing. And then if it was the NPC's turn, then we're going to change it to be the player's turn. I'm going to update the text on the screen to let you know it's the player's turn. I'm going to clear out the turn queue. Even though it should be clear, I'm going to empty it out just to be safe. And then we could run through a for loop here. But instead, all my players are going to be adding themselves into a group called players. Now, you could also do this on your own by going up to Node, Groups, and Manage Groups and go through the UI here and add all of your player characters or player scenes, whatever, into that group. I'm just adding mine through a script. And as you see, I'm going through all of mine here, and I'm telling them all to call the functions that we're going to create on there. Reset action points, check action points, and update label. Obviously, update label you wouldn't need unless you wanted to display information. Reset action points, honestly, I could probably just call it reset. I could probably just call it reset there. That would probably be a better name in this case. But that's fine. So we're going to basically reset our stuff and check our points. All right. On our main script, which is my main part of this world. Now, you see I just split this up into 2 regions. My first region here is I'm just getting the where I clicked on my grid map and the position, and then I'm just moving my sprite to that position. In my case, I'm moving the 0 index, so whoever's turn it is the one that's being moved. Obviously, you're going to have your own movement code in there. And then once we move with my left click, I'm going to subtract 1 action point from that 0 index, right? So whoever's turn it is, I'm removing 1. And then I'm going to tell them to update their label and tell them to check their action points. And that's going to tell them what to do next. So this is your main section here, as you already have your own movement. And now the player itself. For the player, we have some variables here. We have our action points, our maximum of action points, and these are exporters, so you can always change this per character here. If you wanted to start with multiples, if you wanted. We have a speed set for them. We have their full bar and what their current bar is. So in my case, I'm going with a bar of 100. They have a current bar of 0, and that speed is going to determine how fast they fill it up. And then I have a variable here called waiting, because we do run into a little bit of an infinite bug, interestingly enough. So just having this waiting variable in here as a boolean is basically going to signify, hey, I'm done. I have no more points left. I'm waiting until it's the player's turn again, right? We're waiting until it's our turn. Alright, now as I was saying, in my ready function here, I'm adding my player character here into a group called players, which, remember, we're using in the game manager to tell all of my player characters to run these three functions. And then I'm calling my reset action points function, and then I'm calling end turn. So end turn, again, is going to run through, wait 3 seconds, and then it's going to turn into being the player's turn. Alright. So what are these actually doing? Well, I just go on down there. Obviously, the update label. We're just getting some information here. Right? And all we're getting, in my case, I'm just getting the my player number. That's fine. Right? You don't need this information. This is just up to you. And I'm just obviously updating the label with my player number, how many action points, and how much speed this character has. The reset action points, which, as I said, I could probably just reset this, or just call this reset. We're setting the action points equal to max action points, because remember, they're 0 when we're calling this. Waiting is getting reset to false, and current bar is being reset to 0. That way, if you applied maybe some kind of a speed buff and increase that speed, their bar can refill, and maybe they can go they can jump ahead of the line in that queue, right? Maybe instead of going third, now they're going second. So just so we can determine that, I reset the current bar to 0, just in case you have speed variations. And, oh, that's a big one. We'll save that one. So we'll jump into our process function. So we're basically going to say, if it's the player's turn, and waiting is false, so if we're no longer waiting, and it's the player's turn, then we're going to perform 2 checks. We're going to say, if the current bar is not equal to the full bar, so if our speed bar, turn bar, whatever you wanted to call it, is not full, then we're going to add onto our current bar based on our speed. So if our speed is 6, we're going to add 6 to our bar, and on the next frame, we're going to make this check again, see if our bar is full. And we can check to see if it's equal to full because of our next line here, which is taking the minimum of current bar or full bar. And between these two, it's going to pick the smallest number and assign that to the current bar. So if our current bar is, say, 50, and our full bar, of course, is 100, then it's going to say, okay, current bar is smaller, it's 50, so current bar equals 50. But likewise, if our bar is completely full, or maybe it's not full, maybe it's 99, right? And then we add 6 to get us to 105. It's going to look at both of these and say, 100 is smaller, so current bar is equal to 100. Right, so this is basically going to ensure that we never just go over that current bar, which is fine for this case. And our other check here is going to be an else if current bar is equal to full bar. So if our bar is not full, we're going to increase it. And if our bar is full, then we're going to say if we're not in the turn queue, then add ourselves, right? We're just going to append ourselves into the turn order, into our turn queue. And that just leaves us with one function left, which is check AP. And we'll split that up here. So we're going to say if we have 0 action points, then what we're going to do, we're going to find ourselves in the turn queue, whatever our index is, which it should be 0 at this time, but just to be safe in case some weird thing happens, we're going to look for ourselves and get the index. We're going to remove ourselves from the turn queue. And then if the turn queue, if the size is 0, meaning there's nobody left to take a turn, then we're going to tell our game manager to call end turn so we can switch over to the NPC's turn. And we set waiting to true because our character is now going to wait until it's their turn again. Alright, so we then go into our else block, which means if we have action points, Then what we're going to do, we're going to check, we're going to see if the size is greater than 1. So if there's someone else besides the character who just went, then we're going to find ourselves, remove ourselves, and insert ourselves at the end. Now, we could, instead of using insert, we could just use append and add ourselves in on the end. That way, that would work. I'm just using insert. It's just what I wanted to use at the time. But since we're just adding it to the end of the queue line, we could just use append. And that's really it. So, and the reason why we have this check in here, this if check, is if there is only one person, then we're not going to go through, we're not going to remove ourselves and try to add ourselves to the end, because there's no one else, right? There's no one else to go. It's just us, so we can just keep going and taking our turn. Hopefully that made sense. So going through, we go through, it starts, all of our players have been added to the player group. It's the NPC's turn. We called end turn. So we're just waiting those 3 seconds to simulate the NPCs going. And then we change over to the player turn from our game manager. Now it's our player's turn. And we run through our checks. And we see it's the player's turn. We're not waiting. Our bars have been filled up. And now that our bar is full, they've all been added into the queue. And now we're able to make our turn. So now that our queue is in order, we click, we make a move. Alright, player 3 was the fastest one, so they were able to go first. If that turn ended, we checked AP, see if they had action points left. They do, so we go into our else block. There are other characters that still have a turn. Right. There are other characters that still have a turn. So we took them out and we added them to the back of the line so that they can go again when it's their turn. And likewise, right, we click, same thing happens. Click, oh, and now this character has 0 action points. And since they have 0, they are completely removed out of the turn order. They will not have another turn. But there's still other characters that have to take their turn, so we're not ending our turn yet. However, waiting has been set to true on them because they're now waiting until they're able to go again, right? So now player 1 goes, and then we go through our cycle again, our characters. And we see player 3 was able to end it. They have no action points left, so they've been removed as well, just like player 2. Player 1 goes, they're out of action points, they're done. And player 4 can still make a couple more turns. And we can show this as well. So we had player 1 here. They're the slowest. They only had a speed of 2. But if I were to change this to, say, 7, I believe that's faster. I believe 7 was the highest that we had. If I change that to 7, player 1 is now going to be going first with their speed of 7. Change this to player's turn. And they should be able to go first. Oh. That did not change. Why not? Oh, because I didn't hit enter. Okay, that's my mistake there. But we see player 1 now has a speed of 7. And when it's the player's turn, we can see player 1 is now going first and player 3 is going second. So we can see the speed is being taken into account as for the turn order. Alright, so if we go ahead and we take a look at that comment now, we are handling multiple characters. We do have a turn-based system, so it's either the player's turn or the NPC's turn. This is working with a square grid, but we don't have to worry about movement because they have their own movement system. They can move around until they've run out of action points. And all my player characters have to move first in the order of whoever is fastest. Alright, so hopefully that wraps that up. Oh, we've gone on 20 minutes. A little longer than I was thinking, more of 15, but there you go. Hopefully that was clear. Hopefully that was easy to follow and understand. But with that, take care. Have yourselves a good one, and I'll see you guys in the next one.